Have you ever wondered what might be possible if you stopped living by the rules that you were taught and started living by the truth of who you really are? In today's episode, I am joined by the incredible Dyan Fast, founder of Elevate Her Design. After decades of living in the roles of mom, wife, and educator, Dyan found herself asking the same question that so many women do. Who am I when the noise quiets down? Her answers came through discovering human design, a tool that has helped her reconnect with herself, deepen her relationships, and step into the next chapter of her life with purpose and power. We talk about how human design and faith can beautifully complement each other, how understanding your energy can shift the way that you show up in business and in your relationships, and how it's never too late to stop playing small and start showing up fully. Whether you've heard of human design or are just curious about what alignment really feels like, this episode will stir something inside you. Let's jump in. Okay, so you run Elevate to Design. That's your private business. I know. So speaking with you today, I'm so excited to chat with you. Katie had such amazing things to say about you and the things that you guys do together, but speak a little bit about what your business is separate from the retreats that you guys do.
Well, Elevate to Design is an opportunity for me to help others, coach others in their human design. So it became a huge interest for me, and I felt like it was a way to really connect people with who they are and with others. So it started out, and it still is a part of coaching people in what their human design is. And then that has broadened the scope to creating women's events and women's retreats. Katie and I do that together through Awaken and Elevate events. And I bring in a little bit of that human design into part of our retreats and events from time to time. But I also have other pieces of my business where I can do some coaching, consulting with someone's human design, whether that's with their business that they're in or with relationships that they're in, parenting. So it's multifaceted.
So for the listener that does not know what human design is, and for me also, because I'm new to it, how would you in 60 seconds explain human design? 60 seconds.
It is 60 seconds. Human design is a system of differentiation. So it helps you understand your energetic blueprint. So we are born with an energetic system. We have an energetic aura. And so this system was created to kind of be a tool that you can use to look at, what are some certain ways that my energy works that's different from somebody else? Or how might I have some specific gifts that I was designed with that will help me, be more at peace in my purpose and the things that I'm doing, feel more aligned with who I am, rather than trying to fit into the role of everybody else or what you've been told to do. So it's a blueprint system that kind of shows you how your energy works, if I could put it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. So you must have been living in some way out of alignment that caused you to discover this.
I would say there were elements of my life. I wouldn't say I'm totally out of alignment, but back in 2020, as everyone has their, story of COVID and how it shifted all of their awareness of themselves, it also was in this perfect crossroad for me where my children had left home. I was an empty nester. My job that I was currently in with coaching teachers, I was home, and there was a lot of silence and solitude. And that just made me introspective about where I was in my life at that time and who I was outside of all of my roles. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of learn more about myself, grow in my faith and who I was. And I came across this. My daughter had shared it with me. And at first I was like, this is a lot. There's this body graph with these lines and things in it, and this just seems like too much. But as I became aware of the fact it kept coming back to me in many ways, and I thought, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to experiment with it a little bit. And when I did, I was, wow, I just felt different in the way I moved about the things that I did. And it became such an amazing conversation piece for my husband and I and others that I just started feeling more connected with myself and with others. So it made me decide I need to get certified in this and learn more so that I can practice it and share it with others.
Okay, so before we get into that, I want to go back to the piece that this is something that rings so true for me as far as you mentioned faith. And how do they really, and your resistance to learning about it because of your faith, I don't want to say accepted it, but what was it about how they could coexist that allowed you to step into it with so much enthusiasm?
Yes, I come from a Christian upbringing, and I've been a Christ follower. That's been my faith. I also, when I came across this system, yeah, there were those little pieces of, what is this? Is this something I should check out or not? But in that time of solitude, when I was really by myself and really, having those conversations with God, I was looking at this system and I was thinking, okay, how does this? I feel connected somehow. I don't just feel connected with myself, I feel connected with God. And the more I spent time with it, the more I realized this doesn't replace faith. It isn't a religion itself. It's a tool. It's really a tool for me to understand God's design. I know it's called human design, but I feel like for me, it was a way for me to say, oh, God designed me this way. He created me and knew the time I was born, when I would be born, where the, planets and the sun would be on my birth. And I'm just taking these little bits of information about that design and I'm going to try them out and see how I feel. And like I said, I just felt more connected and I knew that this was in alignment with my faith and that didn't make me afraid anymore. I had great conversations with my parents and my family members about it who've been very interested, and it's just been a fun conversation. It hasn't been something to be feeling like I have to put it in a box over here and hide it away from my faith, if that makes sense.
Yeah. As everyone around you that is of faith had the same acceptance?
Not everybody, and I don't expect them to, But I feel like there are different people that are going to take this and maybe have some fear around it, and then others that are going to have some curiosity around it. And I would hope that, curiosity would win over fear every time. Love would win over fear every time. And that I could just present my life as an example, not so much this big system that seems so overwhelming. Like, take a peek at how my life is being lived. And if you feel like that's in alignment with what your faith would say is true, then be curious with me.
When you first started experimenting or just being open to some of these different things that you were learning about yourself, what were some of the first experiences that you thought, okay, this definitely feels good?
Yeah, in my personal life, especially in my relationship with my husband, but I have a funny story about one time where I was this person that would constantly come up with ideas about different things. I loved what I do as an educator in the public system. But I also had all these other passions, and I would often talk about, what if I did this? And I have this idea for this. And my husband and I were in the car one day, I'll never forget. And he said, Dyan, you know, some people are talkers and some people are doers. You should just do it. And I was like, what? And I had just started looking at my design. And when I realized that I'm a manifesting generator, which there's 5 different energy types, and a manifesting generator is very multifaceted. So they are known for starting and stopping different things, having lots of different passions at once. I would be reading 5 books at a time, and I'd dog ear, pages in 5 different books. And my family would kind of laugh at me. I felt kind of flaky sometimes about the fact that I was that way. But when I discovered that I'm actually designed this way, I was like, okay, I am going to start this. I don't have to totally stop what I'm doing over here to start something else. I'm designed to do multiple things. And I leaned into that. And all of a sudden, they just started connecting. And I started to feel just this aliveness that I hadn't felt before. So that's probably the first thing. We joke about it now that my husband said he's responsible for me understanding my multifaceted nature. But we say it's that in the combination with human design. But in addition to that, too, we've been married for over 30 years. We've grown up together, really. And we have discovered new things about our relationship that make sense. For one, in my husband's design, there's different circuitry in it. So his design is what they would call tribal circuitry, and mine is individual circuitry. So oftentimes when I will approach and look at life, I come from it from an angle of like, what can I learn about this before I'm sharing it with anyone else? Like, I really have this introspective nature about it. And my husband's design is he has a tendency to look at the everybody first, like how's this going to affect the group? And it made sense when we were in the midst of sometimes some misunderstanding over situations with family, with our children. And we would stop and say, oh, okay, I see how you're looking at this. You're thinking from a sense of like, how's everybody responding together? You're like, yeah, I am. I'm like, remember, I have individual circuitry, so I have to stop myself and think about where you're coming from. And so we have an opportunity to kind of lighten the load with it a little bit. Or I know that his highest gift is all about tying up loose ends, making sure that the puzzle is put together. And I can see him get frustrated in situations, and I realize, oh, it's because there really isn't a solution for this right now. And so he's frustrated. And so we will have a conversation about it. Like, oh, I can see you're really wanting to be able to figure this out. How can we talk about this differently? So some of those things were huge. There's different people that have either they're open emotional or emotional, which means you either open emotional, you're absorbing the emotional energy of others. And then half the population is putting out that naturally, and they're not necessarily noticing that they're giving all that reflection to everybody. And my whole family, my kids and my husband are all emotional. So they give off this emotional energy and I absorb and reflect. So I often would come off as the one that was like overly emotional, but it was because I was reflecting all this energy. And when I understood that and they understood it, I could step away from it for a little bit and be like, okay, I get what's going on here. I'll just take a break.
You're like able to give yourself grace for the feelings and emotions and behaviors and patterns.
Exactly.
So what are the 5?
Okay. So there is the generator. I'll relate it to a car to kind of make it make sense. So generators, and they're the highest percentage of the population are generators, and they're kind of like your motor, your engine, right? So they're gonna keep everything going in the world. They're the workers. There's manifestors. They're like the start or the ignition. And manifestors are really meant to kind of give an idea or spark something to get started, but they don't necessarily do the driving. So generators, so manifestors, generators, and then manifesting generators, which is what I describe myself as. We also have this sacral energy to kind of make us go and do and have endless energy. However, manifesting generators are going to take a lot of different roads to get to the same place, where generators are going to be, straightforward on the highway. We're going to take a lot of different side roads as a manifesting generator. And then you have projectors, which is what you are, which is what my friend Katie is, who we do retreats and things together. And projectors, I would say, are those ones that have like the rear view mirror or the side mirrors. They get a really good view of what's going on around them to give them ideas about perspective on the road of life. And then you have reflectors, and reflectors are just that very small percentage of the population, but they are meant to really reflect back to us what is true and kind of make us be introspective. So only 1% of the population. I haven't met a reflector yet. I'm looking forward to that.
Interesting. Not one. And how long have you been practicing with people, like actually reading other people's charts?
Let's see. I got certified about a year ago. So it's only been about a year that I've been practicing this out. And because I have so many other roles going on, I've done several, I would say probably 30 to 40 different readings with people. But I just continue to learn more as I do those, because I'm like, oh, what does this mean? So yeah, it's still happening for me.
It's so interesting. Like I have shared with you, I've just very recently learned a little bit about myself, but I was talking to a friend a couple nights ago about you and what you do. And I was like, she actually had said she wanted to do events. And the thought of events for me is no bueno. I do not want to be around people for that long. No offense. I love people. Like I love people with my whole heart, but I get drained. And learning about some of these things and realizing that there are people just like introvert, extrovert personality types, but you are wired for different types to have more energy within different types of interactions. And that makes so much sense to me. So it'll be interesting to find out what hers is.
Yeah. And you are, as a projector, that's very true, because you don't have a constant energy, sacral energy. You can get depleted because you're absorbing a lot from other people. There's a lot of energy around you. I have to be careful of that with my friend who does the retreats with me. Katie's a projector as well. And I'm always like, you need a little break. You need to have a little people break for a little bit, because it can be taxing, where my energy can be like, I could be around people all day.
One of my best friends and I were that too. You would be like her and I would be like Katie, and she's exactly the same. You're done, aren't you? You need to go back to the room, right? You're over this. I'm like, yes, and she's also the one that is like, when are we going to get together again? And I'm like, I need to recover from this experience before I can plan another one. And so depleted, and I absolutely have to recharge by myself. So, but when you know those things, then you can better understand how to manage your energy on a day-to-day basis, as well as in your business. So what was it about your own personal experience that told you, I want to share this with others? I want to actually have a business around this.
I felt so free. I felt really abundant. That has been one of my words, my 2 words for this year, freedom and abundance. And I had this sense of freedom, and I couldn't keep it in. I think when you are completely aligned with something, you can't stop talking about it. And I will say, because I'm a manifesting generator, I have energy connected from my sacral to my throat center. This is in the part of the chakra system. And so I can't keep it in. And so it was just word of mouth. And the more I started talking to others, and the more we'd have conversations where they started feeling connected, like, oh yeah, just like you were mentioning, that makes sense. And some people don't need human design to figure that out, right? You didn't need human design to figure out that you need a break from people, or, you could call that introvert, extrovert. You could go into different modalities that help you understand that when you're aligned. But when this was kind of a fast track system to understand things that way, and I started talking to more and more people about it, it just felt like it couldn't stop. And it just snowballed. The creation of things started happening. The idea of, okay, let's just do one-on-ones. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we could do small women's circles with this. Okay. Maybe we could talk to some people that own businesses. It just snowballed, and I couldn't stop it.
What was the first experience where you had shared with somebody about their human design and it changed their life?
I mean, I don't want to speak for them because I have people in my family that would probably vouch for the fact that understanding their design has helped them really handle situations differently that have been life changing. Just knowing, okay, I don't have to overreact to this or whatever that might be. I will say, and I don't want to speak, like I said, for anybody else that I've done a reading on. That's their own story. But there's been a few people that I've watched change the way that they have worked in their own business and found success. And then we've had conversations about that since then. Like, oh, you know what? When I realized I couldn't use my energy all day long this way, and I needed to give myself breaks, or I needed to be able to come up with a different system, or I needed to hire somebody else. And it's made all the difference in the world. And I probably wouldn't have done that because I would have tried to work just like every other generator of the world, because that's what you see happen more often. And I had that freedom. It's freed up my ability to be at peace with myself, to be more present for my family. So those are kind of some of the things that I've heard from some friends that have really put this into practice. Again, it's not necessarily hearing it from me that made the desperate difference. It was the actions they took afterwards to experiment on their own.
Mm-hmm. So in sales, people that are in sales that sell any product, anything, service, product, whatever, what are some examples of the different ways that they could potentially approach the way they operate the sales aspect of their business based on their design?
One of the things I think that stands out is understanding what we would call your authority. So different energy types will have a different way that they have an intuition about something. And I think about when you're in sales, you're intuitive about your client, you're intuitive about how to market, and we get intuition in different ways, but we are so clouded by what our thinking mind wants to distract us with. And so for myself, I'll speak for myself, I have a sacral authority. So my gut is the thing that's going to really kind of tell me whether this is for me or not, whether I should act on this or not, whether I should meet with this person or not, or I should make this sale or this, whatever it might be. And that really means getting in the practice of feeling in my body where I have that little butterfly feeling in my gut. For someone else who might have a different authority, there are people that have like a splenic authority, for instance. And a splenic authority is like these quick hits, almost like this little, go here, do this, go, try this out. And it's almost, I want to say, it sounds funny to be like a little voice, but you have this little intuition that's happening. That's almost like this voice of like, go down that road or go to that coffee shop. some of the practices that I've seen people do with that use in their business is kind of take note of it. Like start writing this out. I had this little thought, this little fast, quick thought that made me think I should do this. I'm going to write this down. I'm not going to overthink it. Oh, but what if this? What if this? I have splenic authority. Let me see if I act on that, what transpires. So again, experimenting with your different ways that you're intuitive based on your design has probably been a big thing that I've seen some people use in their business that's made a difference.
So I have learned a little bit about myself and am that, I don't even know how to say it correctly, but perfect example. This happened today. I was listening to a podcast. I'm obsessed with podcasts as a listener. You do also. But I was listening to this podcast about businesses, launching businesses. I'm launching my own coaching business, which I'm so excited about. And I'm not joking, probably 6 minutes into this podcast about a strategy, and I'm posting it. I'm like, I'm going. I don't even know the rest of the strategy. Yes. But I literally feel that that's a great idea. I'm doing that. I'm go. And I'm not asking like any questions, and then I'll figure it out later. So it's so interesting to hear some of these things and to have that confidence to lean into that when you know that's how you're designed. I want to speak just a little bit because it is important to me how you differentiate between, and I think it's so, so, so important and so beautiful when you can truly trust yourself and learn to trust yourself. I think that's a part of our journey in life is to learn to trust ourselves. But how do you make the distinction between trusting yourself, trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, trusting those whispers, but also having all of your faith in God?
Yeah. Well, I would go back to the idea that if I know God is the one that is my authority, right? He designed this body, this way that I'm responding, that I can trust that that's how God's speaking to me. So to me, they're one and the same.
Beautiful.
If I'm saying, okay, I was designed to get this butterfly feeling and respond to it with a yes, yes, or a no, no, that's God speaking. I'm correlating that that's actually one and the same instead of trying to say, okay, this is, I think we don't trust, we don't put that trust in that body. We want to, like I said before, be in our mind. Like, do I have to ask 7 different people and make a spreadsheet over this and go down? God hadn't designed us to try and overthink everything either. I think that he speaks in mysterious ways. He speaks in the small whisper. And I think that small whisper is oftentimes that authority that we've been designed with.
Now, going into the events that you're doing, we haven't really talked a whole lot about that, but talk a little bit about what those look like.
Oh, wow. I get so excited about this. So we really started off with a bang, jumped right into our very first time we did anything was with a full weekend retreat. And one thing that I've loved doing too, along this path of meeting different people and getting to know different women, is I want to highlight some gifts that they have. I don't want to be the know-it-all of running every aspect of the retreat. I love putting the things together and having creative ideas, but bringing other people along. So we did Mindfulness in the Mountains was our first retreat in Packwood, Washington. And I think we had 12 or 13 women for that first retreat. And we brought in some other people that were a part of that. We had yoga. We did snowshoeing up in the mountains. We had a friend of mine who does hypno breath work. That we did hypno breath work. We did really clean, organic meals to be really, talking about being in full wellness. And we had some women's circles where we just went around and we talked about some deep topics that would just get discussions started with women and just connect. And the second retreat, so the second year, we did another one in the mountains. And that one, I was able to pull in some of my human design, did a little workshop with that. My oldest daughter was able to come and lead Pilates. That was a little bit different. My youngest came too. My mother came to a retreat, which was very fun. But so we've had some big retreats, and then we've had some spin-off things because we know not everybody could be a part of the big things. So we started some what we call pop-up events, and those events have been local, and we have taken other people and highlighted some other people in the community, especially women and women-owned businesses, and brought them together. We've done everything from floral arrangements and floral pressing with breath work to we did another Pilates one where we had local gal that does these amazing cookies that we're doing cookie artistry with it. And so there's just been some different ways we've been able to pull in other people's gifts and talents in the community, and then have women come get together, hang out, enjoy each other's company, and just feel comfortable being in, not having to be in their everyday role. And that's just been fun to see connection.
Yeah, you've said a couple times about how you have broken free from the roles that you felt like you were supposed to be in. Speak a little bit about that.
I think, and I would guess that a lot of women feel this way. We definitely step into roles and we get, I don't want to say get lost in them because they're beautiful. I love being a wife and partner, and I love being a mother. I love being a teacher. I love all of those other things I've been a part of. But sometimes we just get so busy in that we don't have time for ourselves, and we don't separate the who is Dyan apart from being mom, wife, teacher, these other things that have been the labels of my life too. And being able to kind of set that aside for a minute and think about, wow, Dyan is also a creative. Dyan is also a poet. Dyan is also a listener, whatever that might be, just some of those things that are really some deep passions that sometimes you don't get to explore because you've been lost in the things that you've been doing. Yeah, the quietness of that 2020 year gave me some time to think about that. And I've tried not to lose sight of that since then, which is elevated, no pun intended with the word, this idea to help other women at any age. But I often think, wow, I really could have touched on this earlier in my life. So I love pulling that thread for others to say, hey, step away for a minute and spend some time with yourself, spend some time with others, and realize you're not alone when you feel completely overwhelmed in this other stuff you're doing. Let's take a minute and just think about the other parts of you.
Yeah. And those things are what make you feel alive versus the teaching. Obviously, you must love teaching. You've been doing it for a long time. As far as teaching, coaching, you coach teachers, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you've been doing that for a long time. But what is the difference in the way it feels to show up in the world in that way versus how you're showing up through events and pop-ups?
I feel like they're merging more now. I'll get into that. But I think I was for a while realizing over here, I'm in my professional role and I have to follow this XYZ, I follow the steps of what's supposed to happen. And then over in this other world, we get to kind of let down this guard of I'm, Mrs. Fast or whatever I am. And I get to just sit with the quiet of what it's like to be in the energy of other people where there's no expectation. And I think maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Sometimes when we're in these other roles, there's expectation around it. Mm-hmm. And when you get to step away, the expectation's not there. You feel completely different.
Before you launched Elevate by Design, had you ever owned any businesses before?
I had not. And I always was a little envious of those that did.
Really?
My husband owns businesses. My dad's a business owner. And I have so many friends that are, entrepreneurs. It's so funny. And I always had this feeling like, oh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that? So it was fun to finally lean into it.
And you leaned into it because of discovering human design and becoming passionate about it and feeling like it was your purpose to then share that with others.
Yes. I knew learning about my design. One of the things I learned about too, you have different gifts in your design. And my one is kind of your highest gift. And mine was creating closeness with others. I was like, wow, I get that on an individual basis. I could feel that in the things that I did individually, even at the work that I was in. But to elevate that again and be a part of something else that I could create that would help that closeness happen for other people just felt like, I can do this. I can do this in a different way. I can do it outside of my role as a teacher. I can do it there too, but I can do this in a different scale. And women's retreats and events felt really aligned to that.
That's amazing. That's awesome. How else has it affected your life besides launching the business and your relationship with your husband and your kids?
It has helped me challenge myself to step away from a lot of limiting beliefs that I've realized I've had. As a woman that's over 50, I think I've had this perspective that it's too late. And I mean, I'm here to say it's not too late. And I'm still growing it. It's the beginning stages for me right now, but I can see it. I can see it growing. I'm crushing that belief right now. And for anybody else that's out there that's, maybe later in their, I won't say later. We're not late. We're still quite young at 50. But I really feel like, wow, that was a limiting belief right off the bat. Like, yeah, I could have done that in my 30s, but Now, maybe not. I have a limiting belief, I'm sure, around staying small, live in a small town. I am the oldest in my family with some boisterous younger brothers. And, it was always kind of this role for me to be like, okay, it's fine. Let them speak. So learning how to use my voice and realize that I don't need to stay small. My design has shown me that I'm meant to have a voice. I'm meant to do these bigger things. And so I'm like, okay, let's try this out. I can't stay small anymore.
Yeah, I think there's so much of our lives that we live afraid of actually stepping into what we're called to do, what our purpose is, because it's more comfortable to pursue something that is safer and that isn't going to be as fulfilling, but it just feels safer. So, speak a little bit to stepping into the woman that you are living as today. You don't step into that woman already that woman. You aren't her until you walk it out, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when we, started that big bite of the elephant, when we decided to do that first retreat, and I was feeling all of this emotion around not enough, too old. Oh my goodness, I need to stay small. Like, how am I going to present myself that I have anything to share with these women? It was a matter of being afraid and doing it anyway and saying, I'm choosing to just be here in this moment and let it lead. Let the energy, if I'd learned anything from this idea of energy flow in human design, let the energy lead. Feel the room, listen in, be a part of what's happening around you, and don't step back. When I feel that flutter, when I felt that energy of like, okay, this is the time to speak, lean into it. And so facing fear and choosing love over fear. I mean, fear has been a big thing for me to break through, and it just meant taking the challenge and taking one step, and every step has led to something more that I've been able to trust in. Even though it doesn't end, I still have a challenge every day. I feel like there's a new way for me to go, okay, I can overcome this. Look what I did yesterday. I can do it today. So that's for everything, physical things to those emotional things in life. It's stepping out of fear and into some faith.
Absolutely. So, with human design, what aspects of the things that you've learned about yourself have helped you with imposter syndrome?
Mhm. Yeah. So I've learned a lot. And if for those people that want to go peek at this and look at this chart and understand what I'm talking about, when I talk about an energetic blueprint, there's a chart that shows the different energy centers in your body. And the splenic center is a center where oftentimes you can interpret as fear-based area of your life because it's developed to be our intuition space. And then so that splenic center for me, when I looked at my design, I have a lot of what you called gates that are highlighted there. So those are the areas that you'd say are your gifts. So you can look at things two ways. You can say this is a gift or this is a curse, right? And when it comes to the splenic area of your design, you can lean into it as like, oh, this gives me a real nose for something. Like, let's say it's the gate of knowledge. I could say, okay, I have a real gift for knowing things. Or I could look at it the fear side of like, I don't think I know enough. So I noticed that in my design, I had quite a few gates or areas in my spleen that were highlighted. And I had to think about, how am I presenting these to myself? How am I viewing this? I have been viewing these areas as fear instead of opportunity or a nose for something. Sometimes there would be one that'd be like, people can have a real nose for success, or you can have a fear of failure on the opposite side of that. So realizing that everything in my design, especially in that splenic area, has a shadowed side that you can lean into. That's basically that conditioned limiting belief that's popping up again. Or, hey, I can look at the opposite side of that and see that this is an amazing gift. How will I use it? And that was a shift for me to say, am I looking at this through a lens of its shadow, or am I looking at it through a lens of opportunity?
That's a powerful shift. What is the biggest emotional shift or limiting belief for you that you've overcome knowing your human design?
I think staying small.
Yeah.
Staying small has been the biggest one for me to overcome, and it has been the most beautiful one. I really felt like I needed to just go with the flow, stay quiet, be amenable, do the right thing by everybody, think about everybody before me. Everybody, even the dog, for goodness sakes. I couldn't make my breakfast in the morning before if the dog looked hungry. I better feed the dog first. I'm I'm being silly, but also true. Like that's where I was. And this gave me the opportunity to say, look at you. Look how you're designed. There's so much here that you haven't tried out yet. Can you just try it? And each step that I've tried, it's opened the door for me to understand. I'm getting emotional. For me to understand that I'm so much more capable than I've given myself credit for.
Mm.
And I have so much more to offer than I ever gave myself credit for.
Oh, absolutely. And not looking back and wanting to change the past, but how much does that fire you up for the future?
Yeah, a lot. I look at my daughters and I'm like wowed by them. And I'm like, oh, you guys, look what you have the opportunity to know about yourself now. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but that doesn't matter. That's all part of my story. I'm so glad that I did learn about it later. It has its purpose as well. And it does fire me up for what's to come. There's so much more to come. There's so many layers to this. And I'm so open to what's presented next, who I come in contact with, who I connect with, what resonates, because it's going to be highlighted as the next opportunity to put things together in a way that's going to be beautiful.
Who would be your ideal woman that you want to work with on a day-to-day basis, or that you want to impact directly or through your content and the way you show up online?
I want to impact the woman who can't see herself for who she really is. The woman who is maybe been in this state of doing things for others, playing it small, sidetracked by the fact that there's too much, that hasn't been able to slow down and spend time with herself. I want to be able to really speak into that life and say, you have an opportunity that you haven't met yet because you haven't had the time to spend with yourself enough. So let's spend some time together, getting to know who you are so that you can have even more of an impact. Of course, you have an impact already, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And you're not limited. You're not limited at all.
It's so interesting to me how we can look at our lives and look at them through the negative lens or the positive lens. But you just described yourself, and whether you knew that or not, you literally just described the woman you were prior to 2020 when you spent that time discovering yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And it's because of your lived experience that you are best equipped to serve that woman at the maximum level, right? Because you know what living the way you were living before felt like. You felt like eating before the dog made you selfish. And you know there's so many women out there that are living their lives that way. And you sharing your story and showing up is what's going to set them free from living that way.
Yeah, and I think that there's this part that maybe other women can identify with too, where it seems selfish. Yeah. And I kind of had an epiphany the other day. I grew up in a family that was just wonderful and very service oriented in a beautiful way. And I was thinking about the fact that, where our passion intersects with service makes impact. It really makes our purpose come to life. And that doesn't mean it's not a selfish thing, because I think that you can layer in service along with the idea of your own empowerment and your own ability to see yourself. And that makes it really beautiful. So I think I wrestled with that a little bit, that I was being selfish at first, that I was, I'm not thinking of others. I'm thinking but it's not that at all. You are able to do both. You're able to live both more beautifully when you're able to see who you really are and know the impact you have, and have that voice and have that, see the parts of yourself that you hadn't seen before, and also be of service.
I would actually argue that it's much more selfish to live the way you were before.
True.
Because the reason we stay in that living small mode is because we're worried about how we will look. How will our behavior or the way we're acting, the things we're choosing to do, will that affect others? And we get in our heads about the things that people will think about us instead of the impacts that we get to make for the ones that do need to see us stepping into ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true. I think about one of my One big thing I really overcame when I was looking at design too, now that you highlight that, was people pleasing. And I realized that the shadow side of what I was doing and some of this creating closeness with others as one of my highest gifts, I was looking at that with the wrong lens. And I was leaning into people pleasing, which is very selfish, just like you're describing. And when I learned how to step away from, helping others, creating closeness, being more diplomatic about things, but not pleasing people.
Explain the distinction
It shifted.
that you see now that you didn't see then.
Yeah. I mean, there's a different energy around it. I can definitely feel when it's a people pleasing, and I know that I'm trying to win someone's approval, or I'm trying to look right in their eyes, or it's all about this. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? So it is very selfish because you're coming at it from this perspective of like, I want to make sure they like me. There's ego behind it, really. And now that's put away, and it's okay. I want to create closeness with others, or I want to be able to use this gift, and I want to do good by someone. I want to help them feel good, but it's not out of my ego. It's out of truly wanting to see the beauty that evolves for that person. And then I do get a kickback from it, of course, but it's not in the same energy. There's a way different energy around it, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense because your self-esteem is actually self-esteem at that point. Self-generated self-confidence instead of approval confidence that comes from other people approving of you. Huge difference.
Yes. Huge.
Because you stop requiring everyone else to behave a certain way also.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that your approval seeking is also requiring others to be a certain way.
Oh, exactly.
What has been the best advice that you've ever received?
I'm going to go back to something that's my mom has always said, and I used to scoff at this when I was younger, but she would say, you only have this moment. It's the precious present. And learning how to be present with myself has helped me lean into that intuition, that energy, the time of really connecting with God. And I can't do that when I'm sidetracked by 15 different things, or I'm trying to people please, or I'm in this different state of doing for others all the time. But when I'm able to be present with myself and live in that present, I'm able to be present with everything, with everybody. It spills over, the cup spills over. So you only have this present. You only have this moment. Be in the present, this precious present. That was her constant to me as a kid.
Does she still say that?
Oh, sure. Yes. I'm sure she says it to my kids as well, to her grandkids.
Have you ever asked her how she came to know that?
I think I should ask her again. I know that she'd shared with me a book a long time ago called The Precious Present, but I'm sure she was modeled that too a little bit in her life with others that she was dear to, but I need to ask her again. I do.
I'd be super curious. I want to know what the story was behind how she discovered that as something that is so important to live by. It is so important to live by that. I think that when you are at peace with yourself, maybe describe how it feels to feel at peace with yourself. That's what allows you to be 100% in the present moment.
Being at peace with myself, there is just this buzzing that settles down. There's this energy of fluidity. The pressure is off. There's an opportunity to just be more aware of what's happening right now. I'm not flooded anymore. And I think my energy type, as a manifesting generator, my brain is pinging a lot. And I'm out of that mental space. And the peace happens when I'm connected in my heart space instead of in my mind. And we're busy all the time with life, and we are in our heads a lot. So learning how to connect with my heart is where that presence is. And that's where peace generates.
Now, you learn this stuff about human design and how it's all interconnected. But in practice in life, you don't just overnight learn to stay in that space. So what things have you learned to recognize when you've drifted back, and how do you get back on track?
Yeah. I think that really coming to feel in my body about like my vibrational frequency. I know that's like a buzzword term, but you can measure your energy frequency and whether someone's at a high vibration or low vibration. And the feeling in your body when you are in bliss and joy and that elevated vibration. And then the feeling when you're in this low, angry, down vibration. And I think for me, I've really connected with recognizing, first of all, like when I'm feeling that energy. I'm like, okay, I am feeling this right now. I don't need to just push it away, but I recognize it. How do I get myself into a state where I can, you know, the word regulate, but connect with myself again, bring about peace so that I'm not stuck in a lower vibration and I'm able to be present, because we can't be as much when we're in those lower vibrational frequencies. So just energy in itself, understanding how that feels in my body has been huge. I'd say that's probably the number one thing. And then other practices that I would use to kind of get myself to a different state have been, in my practice, even maybe before I discovered human design, but they've been, I keep saying elevated. I just am giving a plug for this. They keep being elevated
Yeah.
as I go through life. So some of those things where I'm in meditation and prayer and journaling, those are things that I've done earlier in my life, but they're different now that I really understand the flow of energy in my body.
Yeah, we do things we don't realize. We do learn ways that we can manage our emotions and regulate our emotions and energy states, taking a bath, reading a book. There's all these things that we know to do or that we do. We maybe don't realize that that's what we're doing in the moment until you go through life and learn about all these things that we get to learn about in life and how our emotional systems work and how you can actually regulate your emotions. I am like you. I'm super curious right now, actually, not to get into my stuff, but how it all ties to my human design, because I definitely absorb everyone's energy and feel that I have way more energy or emotion than most.
You're an open emotional. So I could see that in your design profile when I looked at it. I'm like, oh, you're an open emotional too. You absorb that energy.
I like walk into a room and I'm like, you're mad, you're sad, you're angry, you're really overwhelmed right now. And it's just so interesting. It's how I've always been. And now I'm learning I can separate myself from that a little bit. It's so interesting. This is such an interesting thing to be learning about. Like I said, I've only learned about this in the last couple of weeks. I know very little about how it relates to me personally, but I just feel like it's so empowering to learn about yourself. And I think anyone listening should just be curious. I love that you said that earlier, that we just need to be curious. And that curiosity is the ace up your sleeve in every aspect of life, in your relationships, in your friendships, in your work, in your everything, in every aspect of life. If we can just be curious and open, that is where growth happens.
Absolutely.
What is one thing about you that you wish people knew better about you?
I think I wish people knew, and they're probably going to know now if they listen to this, how I do have those limiting beliefs. And I think people would look at me in the roles that I've been in, and not even in this new stage of my life, but in past roles and coaching teachers and leading things. And, I can stand up and be in front of a group and look like I've got it all together and that I'm not afraid. And I've had some deep rooted fears that I've had to work through and I'm still working through. So I think I would want people to know that they're not alone if they have these feelings and they're pushed out in the front. I have not always felt as secure as I do in certain things, and I still don't. So I guess just that I'm as vulnerable as anybody else, even if I come off that I'm not.
I think that's so important, because I think a lot of people think that you and I, in different ways, in the way we've shown up in the world, appear so overly confident. You stand up in front of people and you speak on stages, or you host events, or you lead things. And the truth is that we are all doing it afraid. Everyone is doing it afraid. I think everyone is always doing it afraid, because if you're growing, you're either growing or you're not growing. But if you're growing, you're moving on to the next stage, you're moving on to the next level of growth, and you're always doing it afraid. No, or you're retracting back into your comfort zone. The only people that are not doing anything afraid are not growing.
Absolutely. Yep, that's very true. It's a reminder to me every day. Do you want to stay the same, or do you want to go?
Yeah, which do you prefer? And how does it feel to stay the same?
Boring.
Horrible. For me, it's just in my life, it has felt terrible to feel like you're not living up to your potential, and you're living in those roles, and you're following the rules, and you're wanting everyone else to be happy, but you're not focused on what am I here to do? What is my impact meant to be?
Yeah. when that energy isn't flowing correctly. And again, I keep relating this to human design, but there's different signature themes that, not self themes, that pop up for different energy types. And for my energy type, it's frustration. So it is the feeling when you're not in alignment with yourself. Let's just say, and you can feel it whether you know anything about human design or not.
Yeah.
There's a feeling of frustration. There's a feeling of stagnant energy that's just not moving. And that's where staying the same has, been for a long time for me. And like, okay, I finally broke free of that. I still had things in my life that I loved, but there was something that was kind of frustrating me down deep. And when I experienced this idea of moving into doing things in a different way, it's like, oh, wow, I'm not as frustrated anymore. I go to bed at night and I'm like, that was a great day.
Yeah, going back to that time when you were being a mom and being a wife and you have your work that you've been doing, did you ever feel like you were being ungrateful by being unhappy in those roles?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And I can say, I don't want to paint a picture that I was unhappy all the time. It was just a matter of, I felt like there was more. There was a little frustration about, I love this. I love being a mom. I love, I love these relationships that I have. Got great things going, but there's something more. I can't put my finger on it. And I just feel this bit of frustration in there. And yes, I kind of felt guilty for feeling that way because what more could I want? People would look at my life and think, what more could you want? But it was just about using it in different ways. Like I said, for me, it's being multifaceted. Some people that are different energy types, they might need to leave something altogether and start fresh on something new. For me, I haven't felt that necessarily yet. I could, but for me, I can do multiple things at once. I just wasn't allowing myself to do that for many years. And when I realized I can do this, it freed that up.
Free is literally the word I was thinking as you're saying that. It had to have felt so freeing. How many of the women you've met in your journey since you've understood this, has there been any that have said they don't relate to what you've shared?
I don't think I've had any that have said they don't relate. Maybe they're keeping themselves quiet. But I would say there have been a couple of people that I've spoken with when I talk about some specifics in their design, when you're just looking at their blueprint, that they'd be like, I don't know, I don't feel that. And then we kind of have some conversation about, that's okay. What are some things when we talk about limiting beliefs or some things you believe about yourself or some experiences maybe that you've had in your life that are making you feel the opposite of that or that are making you feel different? When those things come up, oftentimes we'll find that the reason they're not able to feel into that energy is because they've just never practiced it. They've never seen it highlighted in their life. They've been living in a different way where they've been conditioned to kind of feel differently about themselves. So it's, again, that opportunity to say, I'm just highlighting it. This is your life to live. If you want to try this out, I wonder what it would feel like for you if you approached it with this different lens. I just wonder. If you feel led to try that, see how it feels to you. I know that one person in particular that I had spoken with that had kind of shared that, and I shared that opportunity. She came back to me later on in her job as a nurse, and she was saying, I did that. I tried it differently with the way I was managing people and it felt different. It did feel different. And I think I'm just going to keep trying this. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So again, it's an experiment to play with. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. This is not meant to be everybody's cup of tea. But I think for people that have tried it, they've noticed something different for them that's felt good.
Mm-hmm. What are the different ways that women listening can connect with you and be a part of the different things that you are running or learn about human design?
Yeah. Well, you can go to my website. It's elevatetodesign.com. And on the website, if you just are curious about human design in general and your chart, you can get your chart for free there. Just start my journey here in my menu. And so you can just put your information in and download your own chart. So you can learn about it on your own too. I don't want to be the holder of all knowledge, but if you want to dive deeper and you want to understand the intricacies, or you have questions, or you want to kind of say, how can I play with this and get some ideas that you could be coached with? I have some different ways on there that you could connect with me and spend some time doing some different coaching. And then we also have Katie and I together have a page on there that goes through upcoming events, upcoming retreats. So those will be posted as well. You're able to go on there and kind of look at events and retreats. I also have some other pieces on there. There's some posts and blogs that talk a little bit more about human design in general, mostly my experience with things that If you're just curious, you can read about it as well. But yeah, you can connect with me there, or email me through that website as well. And I'd be happy to chat. It brings me joy.
Of your upcoming retreats, which one are you most excited about?
Well, we're right now in the works on we haven't put this out there yet, so it'll be on our website soon. But one of the things we're working on is just a 1-day retreat experience for people that can't go do an overnight. So we're going to try and pull that off this summer. And we're meeting with some other people that are going to be involved with that. So we just kind of we need to get some of the details worked out in the next week. But I'm excited about that because I'm excited for the opportunity for women to come be a part of something where maybe they don't need to do the full weekend because they maybe can't have that much time away from their family or whatever. But they also aren't just coming for an hour and a half. We can do some deeper connection that way. I know we'll continue to have our winter retreat, but we have been we're manifesting the opportunity to do another retreat that is at a different time of the year that maybe we could extend a little bit longer, maybe go a little bit further away, maybe do a little something in another state. I don't know. Again, it's all in the process of the work, but mindfulness in the mountains is beautiful. It is wonderful. Both experiences have been completely different with the people that we've had come, but they have been beautiful and amazing. And I would say life-changing if you asked anybody that came. And so I always look forward to that Mindfulness in the Mountains retreat.
Oh, I love that. So before we hop off, is there anything on your heart that you feel someone needs to hear?
What I want everyone to hear is that I heard a quote the other day, and I'm probably going to butcher it now that I think about it, but something like authenticity doesn't mean everybody will like you, but it will mean that you like you. And human design, as much as it seems like maybe this out there piece of something there, that we don't understand, it has been the thing to help me authentically like me. And as a byproduct of that, I think that my energy that I put out in the other things that I've done with the women's retreats and the pop-up events, or just in my personal relationships, that authenticity, because I like myself so much more in this version, has connected me with other people. Now, for somebody else who might be trying this out for the first time and they're learning to be authentic with themselves, it doesn't mean at first that everyone else is going to like you. Mm-mm. But the more you like yourself and the more you lean into that, I think the more beautiful your life can become.
We can't authentically love others if we can't authentically love ourselves.
Very true.
We can mask and do as much as we can to make it appear that we love others. But as long as we're struggling with self-hatred or loathing or any of those types of emotions, anything that we're giving out into the world is also going to be muddled with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
so true.
I am so thankful to have spent this time with you today, and I have like 4,000 more questions. So I will be probably chatting with you or in your inbox or just following your page. But I'm so excited. I am so grateful that you shared your story and that you are making an impact. I want to say, actually, I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about your age. I would venture to say that you feel 10 years younger than you did in 2019.
Absolutely.
We're 39. We're still 39. And we are in our era.
Yeah, absolutely. I do feel my energy is young no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, have an awesome day, and I'm sure I will be chatting with you very soon.
Thank you so much, Kendra. Thank you.
Bye. What a powerful reminder that the version of us that we've been waiting for isn't lost. She's just buried under layers of roles, expectations, and fears. Dyan's story is proof that your purpose doesn't expire and that when you learn how you were uniquely designed, you don't have to force your way forward. You can flow. To learn more about your own human design or join one of Dyan's events, head to elevateherdesign.com. And if this episode lit a fire in you, pass it along to a woman who might need the reminder that she doesn't have to stay small just because it's comfortable. So here's the question I'll leave you with today. What version of yourself is waiting to emerge the moment you stop asking for permission?